Okay, great. So this is our sixth and final session for this eResearch Network cohort, this year's cohort. And today we're going to talk a bit more about the impact and metrics and analytics around research data. I'd like to introduce Song, who's an
Uh-huh.
assistant professor and digital application librarian at Oregon State University Libraries and Press. He has years of experience in generating impact reports with major platforms such as DSpace and Hydra Sophia, using Google Analytics or local statistical packages. Other than repository development, his interests include altmetrics, data visualization, and linked data. Today, Hui is going to speak to us about metrics and analytics for research data and IRs. Let's welcome him to the eResearch Network. Hui, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thanks, Jason, and thanks for DLF and CLR for the invitation. I just gave another kind of webinar to Lita on using Google Analytics, and Jason sent me an invitation because he thinks the topic for Lita is relevant to this e-research network. And, we have, myself and Jason and colleagues at DLF had a conversation I think twice or something like that over the phone talking about topics. And I think all of us agree that it's probably not the same webinar that delivered twice because the audience is different. So I kind of pick another perspective on the assessment that is more, I think, relevant to the folks here on IR and on some librarians or IR manager particular. So in this kind of talk, I will not focus on the details of configuration on analytics technology, but more on how to use the technology in the context of IR and assessment, especially for assessment for different IR services. So let me start. So this will be like a 50 minutes for my talk presentation, and after that, I think based on Jason, we will open the floor for discussions using a chat board. So it's kind of forum kind of setting. So still have some agent here, and so I will first kind of lay the ground of in Oregon State University libraries, what's the services provided from the IR perspective, and the kind of the current assessment and the metrics used for for evaluation purpose. And because right now Oregon State is in a transition to migrate from DSpace to Sophia, which is a Hydra head for IR. So in that migration, so I will kind of talking about two approaches. Like one is in kind of DSpace homegrown local statistic engine, like the Solar Index provides for statistics, and the other is Google Analytics, which is now supported by the latest DSpace and also kind of out of box for Hydra Sophia technology. So I will kind of talking about these two different technologies, different ways of assessment in a more details, and also kind of try to just give a very brief introduction of how to use analytics for some common questions raised for IR-related assessments. And then finally, I will have two demonstrations just to show you guys kind of the latest development in this kind of IR assessment, IR metrics field. So let's start. So this is roughly, of course, if you have questions, just raise your questions in chat board, and so we can discuss after the presentation is done. So here, this is kind of the IR of Oregon State. It's called Scholar Archives, Oregon State. And that's the homepage, the snapshot homepage, kind of number of deposit year by year kind of statistics. And of course, the table on the right side is kind of a distribution of content. So first, it's about, I think it's ongoing, but like 58,000 to 60,000 maybe as of today. And almost 50% are ETDs. So I think that's not only the history, but also common to many other IRs, where ETD is the primary functions for IR services. That's roughly the background. So again, that is based on the content. That's roughly, I call them services, but basically what kind of the content and what kind of the outreach activities provided by the library at Oregon State. So ETD is a big one. And also because the university passed a OA mandate in 2013. So IR, Scholarly at Oregon State, also is used as a repository for green OA articles. So libraries staff has devoted a heavy effort just to recruiting articles from faculties and make them available online, do some cataloging, something like that. And also we have a data management functions. It's relatively new. And also the repository is also kind of used as a pseudo data repository. It's all in DSpace. It's kind of struggle a little bit, depend on what kind of nature of data set. And that's the reason why we kind of try to migrating to Sophia. Oh, here's the chat board. I'm talking about the voice. I'm using the telephone, and just to make sure, yes, everyone is, again, I'm using telephone, not a microphone, but anyway. So that's kind of the IR services. And of course, now we're talking about like the central topic is what kind of metrics and assessment for evaluation purpose. So it's not, I think it's very common that the first thing first is usage. In usage, we're talking about number of page views, number of downloads, mostly provided by the DSpace. We use that. And the second piece is more subtle and kind of, in many cases, related to my topic today, is I call them dissemination discovery. So basically, for the outreach effort and whatever, the conversation with faculty, the question of whether they should deposit their content into IR is really talking about, okay, whether that will kind of increase the visibility of my research, and do you have any evidence that could help me, the faculty, use in their CV or in their dossier to for their productivity evaluation purpose. So, and also even for the library administration, sometimes they are asking, okay, because the diversity inclusion now is a big role of the academic libraries. They are trying to asking, okay, what with these 60,000 items in DSpace in our repository, how many traffics you have, and how many traffics are from like third world countries or some rural area in Oregon. So what the demographic of audience, what's the impact, global impact, and all that kind of questions. So the question like that, like the demography and the international or visibility, are really difficult to just answer using the usage metrics. And we try, I think you guys, most of the must heard of the term ultrametrics. We try that, but the problem is ultrametrics are most likely available for like journal articles, something that's more visible or more like a presentation in that nature even. But for data set, especially for ETD, most of these items will not have any social like ultrametrics data available. So that's still a kind of question is for ETDs, for that GRE literatures, GRE scholarships, data set, presentation, software, something like that. What's the best metrics to give them a evaluation, kind of scholar communication question, but also that kind of metrics and assessment also relevant to the IR success, because that's the motivation, and also that's part of the IR's value. So that's the kind of layout, the background, the motivation. So now I try to go into some details of, okay, first let's start with whatever out of box from DSpace. And again, I assume many audience here are already familiar with different technology of IR, so I just lay out a pretty straightforward bulletinized usage statistics for DSpace, download, page view, especially number of download. This kind of statistics are available at community collection item level. So I will talk about a little bit what that means and what's the problem of the granularity of the download statistics. And we use these usage statistics like in an annual report style for campus institutions such as grade school or some department, especially for ETDs, so because for those units, especially like grade school, they have their annual report. They want to know how many degrees issued each year and the quote-unquote the impact of these thesis dissertations. So they are asking this raw data from IR, and we provide them, especially using the number of download and something like that. So they are used and kind of as a metrics, not only for the IR, but also for some kind of academic success for some department and schools. And the last piece is really a technical piece. It's, because we have this kind of a relatively large repository, and we have to migrate the back-end statistical engine from Solr to another technology called Elasticsearch. That is kind of Solr, but like a little bit like a multi-core kind of the setting, just to speed up the process, because this out-of-box implementation is kind of slow. So that's just the last tweak for the DSpace. So this is a screenshot. So this kind of maybe that's more or less a local issue, but clearly if you can see from the screenshot on the right, for this particular statistics, you can clearly see the issues. One is, that is a like angle break or something like that. That's definitely something wrong with the data. That's either a corrupted index or something like that. And the other one is clearly you can see Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Palo Alto. That's very suspect because they are like Google, Yahoo, and so probably that's the crawlers. That's contribution by crawlers, not by quote-unquote real users. So that is the question, the issue that's kind of, I won't say common, but has a large percentage of items, the statistic has this problem, and the faculty, the author, raise this kind of question almost every time if they say that. And we have to try, we really have to devote a lot of effort to clean the data and kind of to, because the DSpace has a kind of the blacklist for crawlers. They try to update the crawler list regularly, but still it's not ideal, and we still see quite a lot of complaints about statistics. And there's another issue is because the statistics, usage statistics, kind of down to the item level. So if for an item, for example, for, in this case, a data set that has a few files for a set, so it's like an item has a few bit streams. problem is that you can get the item level statistics kind of by city, by time, but you cannot really narrow it down to individual files, to individual district. And that's the problem. So again, so there's two primary issues. One is the granularity, and the other one is the kind of the bot and crawler polluted statistics. So these two really kind of the primary motivation for us to think about using Google Analytics in DSpace. I know the latest DSpace 5, support Google Analytics out of the box, but what I'm here talking about is how to use, not using the, okay, I will talk about later, not using the API, but just using the Google Analytics.js, the snippet, to collect data from your IR, and then going back using the Google Analytics interface to create a report. So there is there's two different ways we're using Google Analytics in IR. One is the way I'm going to talk about, and the other way is more technical, challenging. I will talk about kind of towards the end of the presentation. So the first one is kind of relatively straightforward. You find analytics.js, which is available from Google. You create a Google Analytics account, and you try to add that snippet into your DSpace template. So your page view, your download can be tracked by that analytics.js and reported to the Google console, Google technology, and you can create a report. So again, this is a relatively straightforward introduction of what is Java Analytics.js. Once you have an account, that's just a snippet of JavaScript. You can really copy and paste, because if you log into account, going to the property, there's a session called tracking information, and there's tracking code. So Google have that based upon your property ID, Google automatically generates a snippet. You can paste that into your template. Here is a screenshot. I mean, that's a screenshot from my analytics account. So roughly, that's where you can locate that. But I will give you a more detailed kind of introduction of in DSpace how to add that into your template. So two things. You want use that snippet to track page view and download. If you track page view, you have to kind of add, you only need to add that snippet into your head section of your template. So the file you're looking for is called pagestructure.xml. And again, depend on your DSpace version, how much customization for DSpace instance. That file could be located in different directories. So, but anyway, you'll find that file, and you'll find the template, and you add this snippet that I kind of pasted on slide. You replace the UA, that kind of property ID, with yours. Of course, your domain name from Oregon State University to your IR, and you are good to go. So, and it's kind of straightforward. Tracking download is kind of a little bit more challenging, because in DSpace, you have item page, and you have that DStream page have an open view button, and this JavaScript supposedly will track every time a user click that open view button, that will be considered as a download. That traffic will be sent back to the analytics platform. To add that snippet, you have to looking for the itemview.xml, which is the style sheet that generates the item view page. And again, you're tracking down a particular template called view open, which is the template to generate that button. and you just add the tracking snippet, the track download, kind of towards the bottom of the slide. Add that to the open build template, and supposedly you should be good to go. And these two slides are exactly how we implement kind of analytics in our DSpace instance. So here, this is a kind of the straightforward, which means we track the content, the traffic from IR, and report the data into Google Analytics. And after that, we will going back to the analytics account to see the report and answer our questions. So dimension and the metrics, talking about the Google Analytics report, are the two building blocks of every single report. So kind of you have to understand the metrics, dimension the metrics to kind of to be able to get more insight from a report. I just get this kind of really very high-level overview of dimension and metrics, again, because the talk I want to focus on kind of the practical questions. So hopefully this slide will give you some starting point. I think the point getting from here is that they are kind of, dimension and the metrics are kind of paired. Dimension are kind of the attribute, and the metrics are kind of the values. So they are really, every dimension and a metric has to be talking in pairs. So a metrics only have a meaningful, has a meaning when in context with the dimension. So again, this is the next is kind of a snapshot from the report of an actual report from Oregon State. So in every analytics report, the dimension is kind of the most left rows, because here each dimension, the country is a dimension, and the United States, India, so that's a kind of attribute of the dimension. And the metric is kind of the columns to the right. And all metrics are kind of organized into three categories: acquisition, behavior, and conversion. So you can say each category have a different kind of metrics, and all the metrics are numeric numbers. So acquisition and the behavior, I will talk about. I will talk about acquisition, which is where the track is from, in the later slide. Behavior is really kind of probably not very relevant to IR, because again, in IR, the common practice, the common user pattern is user come into your repository, download the page, and leave or close their browser. So they have less interaction with other content in your IR. They are not going to the homepage search relatively, talking about. Very few users will go to the homepage of IR doing search and kind of browsing around and find your content. They are getting either redirected by a search engine or from somewhere else. So the behavior is not very helpful or not very central. And the conversion is also kind of a e-commerce kind of metrics, because the conversion is kind of talking about similarly like if you have e-commerce website and you have a buy button. So you have a goal to see how many users eventually click the buy button. So, and after that, you try to see the conversion, is that if users starting from the home page, which path they taking to buy or which path they take to leave. So that kind of the purpose of a conversion. So again, behavior and the conversation, at least from the local experience, are not very helpful for IR kind of assessment. So later I will just focus on acquisition, which is kind of where your traffic is from, where is the user from. So here it's kind of I guess pseudo question. One is that how much, and also that's based upon the feedback and conversation with libraries, with administration and the faculty. So the first question is like, how many of the traffic to your IR is kind of contributed by search engine or social media or something like that, or or just like because they are just know your IR, or because they are knowing the URI of a PDF, or they are because they search Google. So what exactly? So which one is more important? So where we should focus on? So that's where the acquisition report is coming. It's why that is helpful. So again, that's the kind of the report. It's called a channel report. So if you go into your analytics account, you click report. That's the kind of top level menu. And on the left side, you have this different report. You have audience, acquisition. So if you click acquisition, here there is a called a channel report. So here in the channel report, you can see Google kind of, again, that's a black box. Because they're smart, they have an algorithm. So they have this kind of categories of where is your traffic, or the kind of the contribution or distribution of your traffic. Organic search is basically search in the redirect from search engine like Google, Yahoo. So that's the search. And Google Scholar, let's see, actually refer as a referral. So referral is kind of like that, something like that. So for example, Google Scholar kind of, so people search Google Scholar and they get different top-down list, like a result list, and they have different words. Probably in some cases you have different versions of the same article, and the user will pick one. So that's considered as a referral, if my memory tells me right. So referral is something your traffic is redirect not from search engine, but from a third website. So that's called referral. It's from other website. Direct. So direct is kind of like the user in the most straightforward use case is just like user type your URL, probably the URL of a PDF in the browser window, in the browser window. Again, that's rare, but if user click from a bookmark or click from an email, for example, they're all considered as direct. And the social is from social media, like Facebook, Twitter, something like that. So that's roughly give you kind of out of box a distribution of your traffic, the nature of your traffic. Yeah, so referral, yes, so referral, again, so in the same acquisition report, kind of underneath the channel, you can see the referral. Yes, so can here, they give you the referral website, which is the website that have the most contribution to your traffic, of course. So you can see Google Scholar is kind of on top. And from the second one, I have no idea what is that. Oh, Exlibris. Yes, that's Exlibris. That's definitely from the catalog, from the LRS. Yes, so that makes sense. So again, so just based upon the referral report, you can see kind of course, that's just based upon the channel report and referral report, we understand kind of Google is important. The Google search engine is important. Google Scholar is also important. So we have to make sure our content in DSpace must have all the headers, all the metadata that kind of be compatible so that can be crowd indexed in order to raise the visibility or something like that. And again, the same from acquisition, like up to the referral is kind of source medium report. This kind of like the combination of channel and the referral. So here they give you like a pivotal view. So for example, in the organic search type, Google is the most important. And in the referral type, Google Scholar is the most important. So that gives you a more clear kind of two-dimensional view of, in each category, which particular value, or particular website, or particular entity is most important. So I think that somehow is more important. Not more important, it's just like a more, more clear, something like that. So that's acquisition report. And again, the social view. So the social is the social view kind of talking about social media, the contribution of social media is kind of, they have a social, I think it's still in the acquisition report, they have a social tab. You click that, they have all these different reports. You can, for example, click different things. And the network referral kind of give you a kind of split of, different social media websites, their contribution. So, but overall, looks like social media really contributes really less to our traffic. So, but probably that's the nature of our content. So probably that makes sense as well. So that's talking about where is your traffic coming from. So probably the next question that is pretty common is, who are your users, kind of where they are from, globally talking. And that some people want to see whether they are, affiliated with universities or something like that, and mobile user. There are just some common questions that kind of have in my mind. So if you want to use Google Analytics for that kind of questions, again, it's kind of out of box without a heavy effort using Google Tag Manager or use all kind of hack. You just go into the audience report. There's a geo section. You click that, because here in the Google report, you can add the second dimension. So, for example, in addition to country, that's a dimension. You can add a city dimension. So in this case, it can give you, again, a pivotal kind of report, like country, city, and you can kind of split down as, which city or the global impact, something like that. So from this report, it makes sense to me because Oregon State is kind of in the northwest, so most traffic are either from local or from Washington or Oregon. And also you can see there is a Nigeria, which is number 5 in that in the slide. So that's kind of giving me some question. And this is October, September data. So that's giving me some question. And then I asking someone else. So because I think that also a little bit makes sense because we have a sister library in Nigeria. I think it's happening in summer or something like that. So that makes sense probably because for that reason we see a burst of traffic from Nigeria. So that also makes sense. So all kinds of things. So that's, again, that report give you a, without really too much effort, they give you some insight.
This is Jason.
Of your,
one quick question.
Users,
there's one clarification question about, can you explain the difference between organic and referral?
And your content, your metadata,
just to get those terms and make it clear.
So you can be more targeted. Yes. I see. Okay. I see. So let me go back to the slide. So organic. So here, again, this is coming from acquisition report. There's a channel. We call them channel report. The organic search, which means that's is coming from a search result in a search engine. I think Google has a list of search engines. So definitely Google is, for example, a particular use case for organic search is user search in Google for an article, and they click the Oregon State link on the result and send to Oregon State IR, and that's considered organic search. So, and the referral is kind of in the definition, referral talking about your traffic is kind of redirect from a website, not from a search engine. So, a particular example is probably from Wikipedia, or from something like that. From for example, just in case, someone encoded a link or embedded a link of an IR article in a Wikipedia page or something like that, and the user first go to Wikipedia, kind of read the article, and click that link, and that link direct to the IR. So that's kind of considered as referral. And also kind of important to know is that Google Scholar, I think that's kind of as a search engine kind of, but in Google, based upon the Google Analytics, Google Scholar also considered as a referral traffic. So that's the most thing from this. At least in my perspective, between organic search and the referral is that user redirect from Google is considered as organic search.
That
whereas
catches it.
User
Do you want to just explain
Google
direct
Scholar
while we're here?
is considered as a referral search. And
Do you want to explain what direct is?
Their logic. So that's is that clear? I will wait. Oh, direct. Okay, direct is that in the most straightforward setting, direct is kind of a user type your URL in the browser window. So that is kind of the direct is in the most straightforward sense. That's direct is talking about. But direct also, there are another kind of use cases that if the user bookmark a link and they just pull the link from bookmarks, that's also considered direct. Or in other cases, they are not from a website but from an email. For example, the link is embedded in email and the user clicked the link in the email, and that's also considered as direct. So it's not really from a website, but it's directly from somewhere, either a browser window, an email, or a bookmark. That's all considered direct. So I know this is a little bit subtle there, but probably the best case scenario is to use some examples, because just from the definition, and I believe they are all just Google's mind. In the Google's mind, they think all the traffic can be categorized into these kind of types. Maybe that makes sense, but maybe not. We just need to kind of, how to say that, give and take. Just live with that. Hopefully, again, let's moving on, and we can going back to these questions once the presentation is done. So again, so the geolocation report kind of provide a where the global kind of perspective. And the other way is service report. Oh, that is kind of, this service provider, and again, that's kind of underneath the audience. But in some cases, because again, here from the report, you can see the service provider, Oregon State University. In some cases, you can see like Northwestern University, or the university will kind of declare their names. But in some cases, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because they are just like Comcast or this kind of service provider, commercial service provider. So sometimes they make sense, sometimes they not. They didn't. So, but I think it's kind of a location you want to browse. Probably they can give you a sense of which institution or whether there's a particular interest in institution that's interested in your IR, in your content. And also again, especially nowadays, some people want to know, okay, the people who are using tablet and iPhones or smartphones to access the content. So, how much effort has to be devoted into developing a more mobile-friendly website, something like that. So you can get from the audio, mobile, you can get a distribution of desktop, mobile, tablet, a kind of distribution of that. And you can even, again, that's still in the mobile report, you can get a more detailed view of technology, operating system, even brand, all kinds of things. So I think that's it. That's for the part that's using the Google Analytics report, using that whatever out of box, the interface, the web interface, to get some answers for your assessment questions. And the next 3 or 4 slides, I will talk about a little bit more kind of require some technical stuff, more technical. But it's kind of using the quote-unquote API and kind of access the data from the server side. It's just like we're not using a manual interaction, a human-computer interaction using the interface, but we want to use a software agent to go into kind of access the Google Analytics database, pulling all this report and kind of massage it into our own format. So we use it more friendly or more freely, have some liberty of using the data. So that's exactly where DSpace and Sophia, the DSpace 5, I believe, DSpace 5, they support not only the local statistics, but also Google Analytics. So the kind of integration of that into their impact measures. Sophia, again, that's a Hydro IR project used analytics out of box as the only means for statistics. And also, again, so the last point is that using that kind of API style, kind of access directly into their database, definitely give the end users like us more freedom to be creative, to use that whatever lively or embedded into integrated with other things. This slide is really I think I will provide them mostly as a reference. So just in case if you want to dig a little bit deeper, you can kind of going back to this slide as a starting point. So kind of step by step, at least based on my experience, how to create the authentication and kind of just to set up the access level. So you follow this step. The idea is that so your application, your website, your IR, your whatever, your creativity effort can access the database, the Google database, passing a certain, just like you're passing some kind of a back-end authentication. So we can talk about that, and really, if you guys want to follow up with questions, I'm more than happy to answer that. These are just like, because they are pretty recent, and I really want to give you guys a little bit, quote-unquote, demonstration just to see what it will look like in the real case. And just take in mind that both demonstrations are local, happening in Oregon State, and they are in the beta version, which is still in progress. But I think they are worthwhile just to share that. one? No? Okay. So just, okay. So first, is that cleared, Jason or Amy? Can you see the screen? The screen I shared, it's just like a website.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. So the first thing I want to show you is the Google Analytics in Sophia, the Hydra instance. So let's going back. So this is I kind of talking about we are the Scholar we're trying to migrate that from DSpace to Hydra to Sophia, and the colleagues of my it's definitely a collaboration that's not only collaboration inside the library, but also collaboration with community globally, because that's a big one. But we definitely have a staging, like a kind of beta version of this repository, and we have a few items just for testing. So if you click one item, this is a particular user interface. And just remember that this is a kind of item level at DSpace, because you can see this is an item, whatever, a guide. But under that item, you have files. You have a few PDF files. It's kind of the item bitstream and that kind of relationship in DSpace. And if you click Analytics, the Hydra Sophia code will access the Analytics database using the code on server-side API, pulling the data, and kind of massage that into their own table format. So you can see it's different, and also they are using a JavaScript just to massage that data into a visualization, interactive map. So you can have pop-up, and I believe you can, if you click one of these, magic will happen, or maybe because I didn't, maybe because that the data is relatively less. But anyway, but supposedly this is the first is a static table, give you the last year kind of download, simulate to DSpace. And this is a kind of our, again, this is kind of our customization as well. And the next tool is kind of an interactive map. So you can click different part of the graph and give you a more information, a more interactive data about that, about your content. So that's one. Is how is what's the evidence. The other one is the granularity. For example, this item level statistics. If you want to go down to a file level, so that is just a file inside items. I can still click analytics right here. Again, using the same technology, we can have a particular usage statistics page view download for this file, not at item level. So we can really going down not only the item level, but the file level as well. And also because we're using Google Analytics for data, for the source data, and they already have some different mechanism to filter the bot, filter the crawlers, and the more important is that they are consistent. So all these statistics are, if they are wrong at the same level. So if people get a consistent statistics, they just cannot, I think we'll get less complaint compared to the statistics that's maintained by the library folks locally, and we have to going back to the maintenance, and we still have so many problems. So not only for the features, but just for the quality of the data, we think that's much better. So that kind of Sophia thing. And the other thing is, this is I mean, if you probably you a few of our participants know the Digital Commons by B Press. They have a readership map. I believe that's whatever they call their product. Kind of. So this is again, readership map is kind of subscription based. You have to be a Digital Commons user to have that map. So we use Google Analytics and Google Map. So we try to kind of have a open source version of readership map with a few tweakings, with some whatever features we want or we can customize. So basically, I think it's pretty clear. This is a global, this is a global audience to your IR. All the data is pulling from Google Analytics using API and kind of plotted on the Google Map. This is a marker, so you can see if there's a wide-reaching marker, it just like means there's a live visit to the IR, and click that marker. This the kind of a bit of the information about that visit, and you click that, you're going back to whatever the landing page of that item. And yeah, so the first thing is where it's from. This is Colorado, and there's what time when this viewed, and if you also see some global impact, you can see this is from Hong Kong, and what they are kind of reading, and this one is from Malaysia and what they are reading, and also so just by, and also if you want to see Turkey, so just, and also there's some from Africa. So this tool is not just for fun, but it's for administrators because we demonstrate them to different administrators, management at not only the library but at other departments like a research office or provost of research office, some level like that. They are pretty interesting because this is a good thing for recruitment, for fundraising, for all kinds of things. That's kind of a demonstration, a really demonstration of impact to general public, to people who have no idea what is IR and why we need to have this thing in the library. So given this dynamic tool, people will say, okay, I mean, within just like a few seconds, you can see a few visits from all over the world. I mean, that's just hopefully impressive, and we can get some support and more usage from the, from our audience, particular faculty, public, library, and the university administration.
Thanks, Hui.
So that's one. I think that's kind of my presentation. It's kind of late, but so hopefully we can still have some time for questions. So let me go back to the put the slide. Okay, questions. I'm looking for the chat board for questions. And the last one is, yeah, so this is my email. You guys can contact me for questions or for, if you want.
The one question maybe to pick up is the sort of background question from University of Pennsylvania about does Google, the company, get to have your data because you're using their tools? What do you know about where the data is collected, how it's stored? Does that question come up?
I can figure out and let you guys to access to get the code at this stage. That's it. And thank you. Oh, I mean, so the question is like the privacy. Oh no, I mean, okay, I see. So the let's going back to the slide. To use analytics, Google Analytics, the starting point is have that snippet, this analytics snippet right here, this one. This one. You have to add that snippet to every page of your website that you want to track. So that's the starting point. So basically, it's, you can say it's two steps, but the first step is create an account in Google Analytics. So you can have that, you can have the report. You can have the access point to the report. So that's the first point. But the second point is that for Google to collect your data, your traffic, you have to add this snippet, this JavaScript snippet, to every single page, web page you want to track. And for this page, for some IR technology, the best scenario is to add that snippet into the template. So each page generated by that template will have that snippet embedded kind of automatically. So that is how Google collect your traffic data.
So I think the answer is they do get to have your data.
Because you already embedded that, how they
go ahead, Sarah.
It's my understanding that they also leak some of your data to other companies.
Your usage data
so
into
it's
the
not the
cloud,
it's not
Google
super ideal for
box,
privacy.
and they will
Actually, Scott Young and
they will
Patrick
massage the data and create
O'Brien,
a report.
who are two researchers
so
at MSU, are writing an article about it, so it'll be
page.
forthcoming.
Yeah, and they're presenting at DLF on some of it too.
Yeah.
You can. Go ahead. I was going to say you can do.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So that's a good point. Is that if the privacy, if privacy is really, but okay. Again, this in today's internet is really the dilemma. It's the more data you give to someone, you have Google, for example, that engine, you have much better understanding of what's going on to your website. But also, at the same time, Google has much better understanding of you. I mean, that's just the pros and cons of this whatever Internet 2.0 whatever.
This is really interesting. Thinking about.
But the other thing is that because Google does not.
This is really interesting thinking about our last assignment. We looked at some case studies with people using
whatever Google
data,
collect is whatever the user
scraped
provide.
data from the web. So it seems
for
like
example,
we have
those,
a similar
desktop,
sort of
for example, those mobile information,
value analysis to make.
Google
is
can
it worth
have that in the
it to
report.
sacrifice maybe some of the privacy of our users in order to understand them better and provide them with better services?
Advertise that information.
Seems like a similar question.
To the Google tracking snippet. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So just balancing, finding the value, the value of where's the privacy and where your stance is, and what is the value the tool is giving you.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Well, wait, they could be talking about other things like if there's an open source kind of clone of Google Analytics, which you could use instead of
here the question is, are the open source analytics
Google
tools
product,
that we can use to
like
protect privacy? Just like which tools are we talking about? Yes. I see. I see. But yes, the question is open source. I don't know. I mean, that's anything talking about data is kind of I won't say a math. It's really a compromise. Again, that's all my opinion. I mean, it's just like who really store the data, how long that data will be preserved. I mean, if it's open source, I mean, basically, I think the data is talking about fundings and a institution that basically the data has to have a house to live or whatever. So, for example, in the library, talking about preservation, the first in question is who will be responsible? Is the library or the information services? And the second one is the cost, because not the server, the storage, or the maintenance, who will be responsible for the cost for the long term if we're talking about a few years or, so it's not about technology, it's about the coding. It's really about the long-term maintenance, like the storage, the management of the data. So that's, unless there is a clear infrastructure, I think I just cannot get that sense. Maybe the privacy, they can have some.
Right, and people are making points in the chat about
privacy.
Open source is more of our control.
Or better privacy.
So there's some real value to, obviously you can see with Google Analytics.
Purpose.
I wondered if, going back to an earlier question, I think that I had,
a non-profit organization.
What about, I mean, if you have something like, did you notice any differences once you turned on, like, you have the DSpace stuff that comes, it's out of the box. It has statistics that it shows you. Did you notice differences between what you saw in analytics, like page views, versus the DSpace? So can you just talk a little bit about that, or what kind of differences you were seeing?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. So, I mean, yes, we can see. I mean, so again, so bear in mind what I'm talking about. DSpace statistics is really a local experience, and probably it's because the Scholar Archives at Oregon State is a repository that has been in place for 10 years. I think they use DSpace 1.8 or 1.8 kind of migrate through 3.4 points. So they use DSpace from beginning and for 10 years and use DSpace always. And they kind of migrate from Solr to Elasticsearch. So the index, the particular index holding the stakes data migrated to another platform because the performance issue slow. Basically, using Solr, they think it's too slow. So this is the background. It's a kind of 60,000 item. I think it's a kind of not a small repository and with a history of technology migration. So the data is kind of has problem itself. I mean, when talking about data, it's talking about the kind of older statistics maybe. Kind of, for example, the angle bracket, you can see some weird, apparently mistakes in the data set, in the statistic. That's one thing. The other thing is the bot, the crawlers, is definitely plotted the data. Even with the latest, for example, the items that ingest last year or whatever, even we update the blacklist, still I can see some like a Sunnyvale, Mountain View, that's really, or even I forgot whatever the Bings, Richmond, Washington, something like that. we definitely can see this kind of crawler cities on top.
So
that is the most headache we have. It's first, again, is the data quality and the crawlers. We tried, but it's not very successful, and it just takes too much time. And we switched to Google Analytics. We run them in parallel, of course, because that's exactly what I'm doing now. So those crawlers definitely is gone. Again, the magic of Google. We just take it. And the other thing is again, the quality. So we think that because, again, so that's the thing. Most users trust Google. It doesn't matter that's right or wrong. Well, probably Google has mistakes in their data, error calculating, whatever, but because it's consistent, it's kind of just like Google Scholar, all that kind of citations, all that H-index, all that metrics. They're consistent. They have one place, the same number, and people use that. So people will give more, I won't say trust. People, if we give a data that is provided by Google Analytics, people will be more comfortable, feel more comfortable to use that data. So that's again, so it's not, so it's, again, so it's probably it's an opinion plus a few improvement. We just kind of make us more towards analytics in the future, especially if we migrate from DSpace to Sophia. Everything is in Google Analytics. Hydra, I don't know Hydra, but Sophia, which is the kind of the Hydra solution for institutional repository, is 100% Google Analytics. There's no second mechanism available. Probably someone can figure out a plugin for using an open source engine or something like that, but as it's out of the box, it's Google Analytics. So probably, even with DSpace, we will more, okay, again, for example, it's kind of in hybrid mode. For example, for the annual report to graduate school, we will still use download statistic from probably from Solar, from DSpace, because that's a kind of history. We try to follow the same pattern. We don't want to give them two different numbers. For example, this year is 10,000 download
were
per
there
year.
Any other questions?
And next year, because we changed the technology, it's down to 500.
Please stay around if you'd like. We're just going to talk.
Radical change.
So we'll talk briefly about
the existing report. We'll use
the last assignment, and then we're going to talk a little bit about logistics, and we might even pick up on assignment 6, which might be of interest
kind of
to
new
you. So
numbers,
we'll just
definitely moving towards.
See if there are any more questions, and then we can kind of move on to the second part of the session today.
Directions now. Hopefully that's
yeah. It's
sure.
Close to being a clone for it. It's an open. Yeah, it's an open source. It's okay. It's an open source clone of. Yeah. Very similar. So there are options, and like you said, you could write that into the Sophia. It's kind of interesting to see Sophia make the choice of Google Analytics as default.
Oh, PV. Okay, PV. Yes, I see that. Is it so? Okay, so is that PV? I think Google Analytics and PV. I forgot. Is that Google Analytics purchased PV or? Okay, maybe that's really my wrong memory.
Right.
Bad memory. Okay. Yes. I see someone use that. Yes. I see some article talking about use that PV. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. And the group may follow up with some of the technical questions, potentially.
Yeah, so Sophia is kind of community. So if there is
thank you for taking the time to kind of introduce this technical
if there's a need and
information
someone
to us, and just get us thinking
definitely
about
will be open. I
what do we
think
do
there's
once we
one
have this
will
stuff up and
kind
running?
of
How do we tell
against
the
that. It's just
story
like they don't have
of the
time or they
value
don't have
of
energy
what we're
on that
putting into our
right now.
research data
But
repositories?
a PVIC plugin or PVIC engine module for Sophia is definitely a plus. Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, again, so this is really the local experience. So especially against the D-space
Mhm.
statistic or something like that. I mean,
Thanks. Sarah,
probably
did you want to
for a
pick up
brand new
on
D-space with
assignment 5,
D-space
any
5 or
reaction or
relatively clean data,
something you want to
probably you
add to
won't
the
have
group?
Yeah, so
that
there
much
were
issues.
just a
So
few
analytics has
responses in
a
the
lot
Google
of
folder last night,
maybe a
and
lot of
I
limitations or something like that because
am really interested
you
in
are just
this sort of
hand
thing,
over
ethics, so I
your
put a few
data and
comments
your trust to
on
Google.
those of you who had turned ears
That's
in before last night.
in many cases that's a
But
compromise
it just seemed
we
like you guys had
in
done
Oregon
the
State
ethics case studies
library think about,
led to
and
at least
we
some
it's
interesting thinking
a little bit moving
about
towards the analytics platform.
what it means to use scraped data or big data. And I loved everybody who responded also talked about sort of what that means for librarians and how we might give advice to researchers who are having this kind of dilemma. So thanks to those of you who did the assignment. It was really interesting to read.
I had one question. It looked like a number of us wrote on the Patreon data hack. Was there something about that one that um, not riled people up, but got people more engaged, I guess? Because that seemed like that was the case study that, of the ones that we've seen so far, that one was featured the most. I just wanted to get a sense from the group. Was there something about that particular hack that seemed like it was just rife for criticism or some kind of write-up? See a couple people typing.
That one seemed the most connected to the work they do.
Okay, something that's good for us to know, just in terms of where the earn goes next year, and there's one that's in particular of interest to the group, kind of feature that one. Okay. Well, thanks all, and feel free to submit those when, if you get to them, feel free to submit them. I'm going to speak quickly about a couple of logistics. So DLF forum is right around the corner, which is great. We'll be in Milwaukee, and we did put out a just kind of an RSVP so that to see if it looked like we got responses from about 15 people that they will be at DLF, and so there will be a wine and cheese reception on Tuesday night. Details of that you will get invites. Bethany and Louisa will be putting them out, so you should see something before the conference. I'll stay on top of it as well, just to make sure that we know where we're going to meet. And again, it's just more of a casual stop in, say hello to each other. We'll be done, and you could still go. It's a kind of pre-dinner time frame, so you could come and say hi, and then go out and have your have a dinner with whomever you like. So please do keep it in mind, and thank you for letting us know of your interest. And 15 is a pretty good representative sample of us. It means a lot of us are going to be there. So really looking forward to that. Um, Other things logistically I wanted to cover. Oh, Sarah's going to craft a quick little, like 2 or 3 questions, just because this is the final session of our cohort of actual webinars that we're going to be meeting with through. So we're going to do just a quick assessment survey, 2 or 3 questions, give or take, asking for feedback, things you like, things you want us to do more of. It's going to give us a chance to refine and, as needed, make changes or keep on course with the earn as it goes into its next year. Um, I just wanted to mention one other thing. One other, wrapping up consultations in October and beginning of November. You should hear this week from a number of us, that are going to be leading consultations. We'll be reaching out to the contact information on that was given when you signed up or expressed interest in a consultation. So that should start really in the next few days, just to give everybody a sense of that. And then finally, I wanted to share quickly. I want to do. Can I share? Hui, can I get control of the Amy? Can I get control of the screen just so I can show the assignment really quickly? And uh, yeah, I can do it. I can do it, and then I think I'm gonna try this. Can you see my screen? You can. Just want to show for assignment 6. Again, a lot of the things that we heard Hui speak to today are part of this assignment. And really, what we wanted you to do, Sarah and I were just thinking, we presented some dummy data. It's not really, it's just raw data from our ScholarWorks repository. It's anonymized. It's very basic data, but it's acquisitions. So when you heard Hui talk about the various channels that you can look at, um, there's acquisitions data in there, there's behavior data and user data. And what you can see, we're asking you to do is just look at those logs and then answer just the questions. There's 2 questions about each of them. And what we can do here is you can obviously share your answers with your peer groups, but I will also, once the assignment is due, I will send out just like an answer key. It's a pretty straightforward kind of, just look at the data, make a best guess about what your answer to that question would be. So you don't have to spend a ton of time on it, but Sarah and I were really hoping that you would start to look at how to interpret data. And so that's kind of the goal of
Yes, sir. You should be
this
able
particular
to.
assignment.
So Jason, do you want me to
If
stop
there are any
sharing?
questions,
Is
feel
that
free
what
to
we're
use
talking about?
Slack. We will be watching in there.
Okay,
And then,
okay.
because we're not really meeting again, I had a November 2nd deadline, but I'll probably move that back more towards um, maybe just after DLF, just to give us all a little more time. I know things are people are in the heart of their semester right now, so I don't want to over put too much burden on you as you're all doing the regular work that you do. So, so if you do have any questions, feel free to ask us. I'm gonna stop sharing. Hold on. Let me get back. Sure. So please do stay in touch, and I'll be in touch on the listserv with some of the I'll pass along the survey. Um, I want to thank you all for a great year, and I'll kind of Sarah and I will wrap it up some more. We're really looking forward to seeing some of you at the DLF, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It's been a really great session.
Yep, looking forward to it. Bye. Thank you for your time today. Okay. Okay, take care, everyone. We'll be in, Sarah and I will be in touch.